everyone, and welcome to Chapter 2 Club's Smart Woman's Guide to Breakups and Everything After. Today, we're going to be talking about a very delicate topic, and that is eating disorders. I'm here with Dr. Katherine Hill, VP of Medical Affairs, and JD Ouellette, Director of Mentorship at EQIP. EQIP is the leading provider of virtual evidence-based eating disorder treatment in the US, built with a combination of clinical and lived experience. EQIP is on a mission to make gold standard eating disorder care accessible to all who need it. Dr. Hill is a board-certified pediatrician who completed her undergraduate, doctorate degree, and pediatric residency at Stanford and was formerly on the faculty at Stanford in Adolescent Medicine. JD is an educator turned family mentor whose youngest child developed anorexia in 2012. She became active in online family support communities, writing, and began attending and speaking at conferences. She is a past board member for Feast. And today we're going to be talking about managing two households with a child who has an eating disorder. Welcome, Dr. Hill and JD. Let's jump right in.
Thank you for having this. Yeah, this is such an important topic because it's honestly hard enough to manage an eating disorder in one household, let alone two. And so I think one of the core things that I work with families on and that we work with families on at EQIP and really love that we can have everyone together, even if they're not in the same household, is first of all, whenever possible, and I want to acknowledge that divorces are different, households are different, and there's cases where it's not possible and not indicated to manage this over two households. If it is, we find that really centering the work on sort of everyone coming to an agreement that we both value the life of this child. We both value the health of this child. And it sounds simple, it's really powerful. We've seen people put incredibly contentious situations on hold for a year. Like, we're not going to stop fighting. We're just going to call a temporary truce while we deal with this. And when folks are able to do that, the impact on their child is really, really powerful. What is really helpful in all of this is common communication, right? Which is a fundamental in a lot of other things, you know, in the context of divorce, never more so than when we're talking about an eating disorder. Mm-hmm. So that means that we have everyone attending sessions, right? So, you know, let's just go with mom and dad in this situation. Mom and dad are both hearing the same information from the same clinical experts in the same way, which avoids a lot of the, you know, sort of game of telephone interpretation thing on that. It can be really helpful to have a really written set of guidelines that are followed from home to home so that that child has that sense of safety and trust of reliability, that regardless of whose home they're in, lunch will be prepared at this time. It will look roughly the same in each house, all of those sorts of things. So centering on what is going to enhance the child's sense of trust and safety in both parents is really, really vital to doing this.
Totally agree.
Yeah, and as JD was saying, you know, alignment, if you can get it, is really key. And the sort of treatment that we do at EQIP is called FBT, which stands for family-based treatment. And really, FBT is the most evidence-based way we know of to get patients back in full recovery from an eating disorder when they're living at home with a parent or both parents. But in this case, I think it's really important to point out that we have seen FBT done successfully. It truly can be done effectively and successfully with two household families. And so I think it's something that, you know, it's not a contraindication. You absolutely can do this family-based treatment if you have gone through a divorce. You just really need to, if you can, try to get that alignment piece down so that you all are on the same page, if at all possible. One other kind of innovation that we've seen is, you know, it used to be you had to drive across town and go into an office and you're all in the same room together, which sometimes can be really tough in a divorce situation. So that's why I think a virtual model like the one we have at EQIP can be really beneficial, because people can join in from wherever you're at, from different households, and you can bring your village with you, even if there's multiple different parents or carers or stepmoms or stepdads, I think that's something that may potentially be a better fit for some families who've been through divorce.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's so important, and we provide tools to help you do this, right? Because it's one thing to say it. Yes, it's better if you all have alignment, right? Of course it is. And it's hard to accomplish, or we wouldn't be divorced, right?
Very, very.
So really being someplace, and that's a huge focus of what we do at Equip, where we can give you all the tools at the same time. And what I've seen be super powerful in households, even when folks are remarried, right? When you have four parents,
Mhm.
or two parents and two step parents
Right.
who are saying the same thing in the same way, the power of that becomes just sort of really exponential. And we can really support people with, if this, then that. So it occurs the same in the both households. A helpful way to say this is this. And then folks, that's what they say. And so it saves a lot of exhaustion, a lot of conflict, things like that. And I've really seen families just come together, and improve the post-divorce situation by centering around this love for their kid.
Absolutely. I've seen it myself too. And, I have a friend who's divorced and her daughter was going through some eating disorder issues and the ex, wouldn't believe it. And it took him to her being at the hospital and a doctor telling him that your child, yes, does have an eating disorder. And that's the only time he actually came around and, finally was on board with it. It's so hard to be aligned, with divorced couples. And
Yeah, and oh, sorry, JD. I was just going to say, I think that's a really great point that, if you can't get that alignment on your own, that's what the professionals are for,
yeah,
right? And a model like ours, one of my favorite parts about what we offer at Equip is we have on every care team a family mentor, somebody like JD who's had a loved one go through an eating disorder and recover. And so they can help support the family, and oftentimes we're pairing somebody who's been through a divorce and done eating disorder treatment with their child with a family who's also going through this. So I think that extra support piece can be really key. And so that's when, again, relying on the professionals to help bring all parties that need to be on board.
wonderful.
And I'm going to put in another plug to support that as well. Eating disorders and anorexia is what we know the most about. It actually have a strong genetic component. So it's really very common for one or more parents to also have some of this going on themselves or have some of it in their history. And so when you have that really robust professional involvement, that can give context to all this and help people move through it, that's really, really helpful. And it's really powerful to see parents heal alongside their children. When children see their parents, divorced, non-divorced, whatever, really push forward and sacrifice for them and make changes. And I like to say, while no family caused an eating disorder, all families have to change to fight one. Um, the the impact of that is far reaching in terms of how the children feel supported by their entire family.
Right. Yeah. And also, to sort of sidetrack, just going through divorce in itself is affected by women too, and their eating habits as well. Is that right?
Yeah, so it's very interesting that a time of divorce, and I want to be real clear that this happens to all genders, right? So men, women as well.
Sure.
Most people who've been through divorce will have some, diet, weight loss, eating more, eating less, sort of whatever their anxiety reaction is. They're in a very stressful, anxious situation. And that often can be a trigger, what we call a negative energy balance trigger for either a recurrence of an eating disorder or the first onset of an eating disorder. So it's really important for, in all these series that we're talking about, also take a look at, what your relationship with food, exercise, your body, and all that sort of thing is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I also wanted to point out that, for families who are going through divorce, especially as mothers, I think you can be very hard on yourself. And if you happen to have a child who's struggling with an eating disorder, I just want you to know it's not the divorce. Okay. It is not the divorce. It's nobody's fault. Eating disorders are never anybody's fault. So again, they're largely genetic. And so that's a point I really want to hammer home. And so you can feel less guilty.
No, thank you for that. I do feel like we as women just always tend to put blame and guilt on ourselves all the time. And it's, such a negative persona to carry with us.
Okay. Society kind of likes to do it as well. So it's a
Thank
whole
you.
fun thing.
Yeah. Thank you both so much for being here, Dr. Hill and JD. And you can find more resources on our website at chapter2club.com. And we will put links to Equip's information down there as well. And have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, you as well. Thanks for having us.